Nothing in this podcast is meant for medical advice. Please discuss your own healthcare with your healthcare providers. Thank you. Welcome to your B-side, your midlife metamorphosis. I'm your host, Dr. Amy Lindsey. Midlife is not a crisis, it's a catalyst to your best life. Join me each week for a dose of mental, physical, and spiritual health, life, grief, adventure, and opportunity. It's time to flip the record over. The biggest risk for your health and your life is the hidden risks that you accept when you decide to stay safe and the same, comfortable and complacent. This is Welcome to Your B-Side, your midlife metamorphosis with me, your host, Dr. Amy Lindsey. So today we're going to talk about the hidden risks of status quo thinking. We often are so scared to buck the status quo because we don't know what's on the other side of that it's so familiar and so comfortable that we'd rather just stay right where we are, continuing to follow the rules and do what we think we're supposed to be doing and what other people think we're supposed to be doing and playing it safe and just being like everybody else. And there is a hidden risk to this that is bigger than the risk of bucking the status quo and going against the rules. You've been listening to me on this podcast for a while now, I hope. And if you're brand new, go back and listen to a bunch of my older episodes. Your B-side, which is not only just the second half of your life where we flip the record over, it's not just about the second half of your life, but it is about living a more truer, authentic, perhaps more vulnerable, more artistic, and braver side of your life. And that might feel scary to you to go for something new, whether it's in your life, whether it's in love, whether it's in your business. And I'm here to tell you that the risk of not taking that risk is actually astronomically bigger and worse for your health in your life. So, what do I mean? Consider this, that you aren't taking a chance, that you are actually finally giving yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance for an opportunity that comes your way, that sends chills up your body, that makes you tingle, that makes you excited, that makes you inspired. And instead of being scared and going to that old, like those old excuses, whatever they usually are, you know the ones, that you actually say yes to it. You finally take charge of your life and you give yourself a chance. And it's not taking a chance, it's giving yourself a chance. What's it going to be? Are you going to finally tell someone you love them that you've always had a crush on? Even in midlife. Are you going to finally step away from a job that is no longer a fit for you? And I almost said, I got to say, I paused for a moment just now. I almost said for a job that is no longer making you happy, but I know better than that. Your job is not to make you happy, okay? Just like people in relationships, their job is not to make you happy. You make you happy. But what I mean is you might be in a job, okay, or you might have a career that is no longer fulfilling the trajectory of your own growth as a spiritual being and as a human being on this planet. That there's no more room for you to grow and develop as a person. It's no longer calling to you, and you might be sitting in a job or career that you're now blaming for a lot of your unhappiness, but it's not that. It's okay. There's nothing wrong here. You can move on to something else. Okay, so I'll give you a personal example. So I pursued being in music for a long time. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that I've had a thing with stage fright. I've had a thing with thinking that I really was an imposter being a musician. But I did spend a lot of time behind the scenes. My first career was in music, and I worked in the music business. I was in academia. I did a lot of festivals. I did a lot of shows and concerts where I was a coordinator or a producer or a manager or a stage manager or a concert promoter or festival producer or something, right? And I worked in that field for a long time. And then it was no longer something that I felt I could continue to pursue. It wasn't doing it for me anymore. And my own health was at stake. And it's not just that the lifestyle, although that was part of it, that I would be up until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning in clubs doing shows and up late. And if you've ever been somebody who has ran a festival of any kind, you know how much that will just kill your adrenals. It is a lot. So my health was suffering, but it wasn't just because of those parameters of the job. My health was suffering because I wasn't growing and continuing to develop in those jobs anymore. And what I really wanted to do was to work in the healing arts. I wanted to be a doctor. And it started with nutrition. So I followed and pursued my dreams of like figuring out that I wanted to go into holistic nutrition and then just kind of being a little overachiever type A person that I was at the time. I was like, why not go all the way and become a doctor? Okay. So I did. I essentially had a career change and became a doctor. Now, you might be laughing if you know anything about medical school. That is also a place where your adrenals are going to get shot. And the irony is I was in this holistic naturopathic medical program, and yet it was the most stressful, unhealthy thing I could have been doing at that point in my life. And I'm laughing now, but at the time, I mean, going through medical school is absolutely not a way to lower any stress in your life. So I became a doctor. All right. I am currently in another transition that have really scaled back my clinical practice, and I'm doing things like this. I am podcasting. I am writing a book right now. I am doing speaking engagements. I am really, really, really leaning in to my identity more as an artist and a musician and a writer and a speaker and a podcaster, right? That my clinical practice, the whole reason I went to medical school, has significantly scaled back. And here's the thing, that took bravery. Okay. That took giving myself another chance yet again. So sometimes the biggest risk is in status quo, because simply just doing clinical practice, at least for me personally, wasn't helping me grow as a human being anymore. At some point, I personally maxed out in that area. Now, that may not be true for other clinicians or other doctors who are doing clinical practice, but for me personally, for my trajectory of my own soul's growth, that is something I cannot do anymore as my full-time job, as the place that I'm putting most of my energy, that I'm getting so much more out of doing what I've been doing on the podcast, in the writing. I've been hosting retreats. I've been doing groups, all kinds of fun stuff outside of clinical practice. That is definitely bucking the status quo. So if you need to borrow a little confidence, I've got some for you. Hey, this is Dr. Amy Lindsey, your host of Welcome to Your B-Side, your midlife metamorphosis YouTube channel and podcast. If you want to be more involved with my B-Side community, you can join on School. That's SKOOL. You can join my school community. Look me up, Dr. Amy Lindsey. Welcome to your B-Side and request to join. Let's talk a little bit about if you are an entrepreneur. So if you are an entrepreneur, and let's say that you did leave your job, that you did leave some career or some corporate situation, and you are now an entrepreneur, the biggest risk you are about to embark on, especially if you're a new entrepreneur, is again, status quo thinking, is that creating your own cage inside of what you thought was going to be freedom in a job. And what do I mean by that? You might be so scared, and that's okay if you're scared. You might be so scared of creating this new life for yourself, creating this new business for yourself, creating these new opportunities for yourself, that your subconscious mind, in its own fear, just clicks back into what it knows. And what it knows might just be the way that you had been doing things at your job, at your corporate job. That I'm here to tell you that being an entrepreneur and putting yourself out there is one of the best ways that you can actually heal yourself. This is so true. When clients say no to you, you have to deal with your feelings of abandonment and people not liking you. When you have to put an offer out on the table, you have to put your whole self out on the table and you feel so exposed and you might feel some of that imposter syndrome or shame creep up and you have to run a business and figure out finances and figure out all the things you got to figure out. You got to hire and fire people if you need support in your business. And that brings up all kinds of self-doubt and shows you where you're at with conflict and relationships with people. So if you want to heal your soul, become an entrepreneur. I mean, I say that a little tongue in cheek. But so let's talk about the bigger risk of status quo thinking. Okay. So now you are someone who said, you're right. I'm leaving my corporate job. I'm leaving this place that no longer serves me, and I'm going to go do X. And you're inspired, and that's awesome. You are giving yourself a chance. Now, as an entrepreneur, the trick is to keep staying in that place of giving yourself a chance, that place in not thinking in status quo thinking, of not just falling into a trap of running your business the way that, quote, everyone else is telling you to run your business. Take it from me that another thing I've done recently in my own life is that I've completely changed the way that I run my business. For the longest time, I fell into the same trap that you're so scared of running your own business, running it online, pursuing all these things you've been wanting to pursue, that you are looking for support, and maybe you hire people to help you with support. Then you start noticing that there's kind of this trend in entrepreneurship, or there's these trends in online entrepreneurship where people have very status quo thinking about how to do it, right? And I'm here to tell you, do not fall into the trap. Continue to listen to your intuition. Continue to align yourself with your values. Continue to ask yourself those hard questions. And that's not to say that you can't hire people for support, that you can't, join a mastermind, that you can't find a good mentor or a business coach or life coach or someone to support you. But always, always, always choose the people that listen to you and want you to develop yourself and your own self-trust, that you continue to give yourself a chance, that you don't risk falling into status quo, that you aren't risking just doing what someone is telling you to do when you know deep down that that's not the way you want to run your life, let alone your business. So what we are here to do on this earth, and I will say this until I'm blue in the face, is that we are here for an assignment, that everyone has some sense of purpose to be here on the planet, that we are, you've heard this saying before, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and I believe that with all my heart. I also believe in past lives and reincarnation, but this life, I don't want to fuck it up, right? Like I want whatever I came to earth at this time in this body, in this human experience to do, I want to get it done because I'm interested in what the next part of my growth as a spirit is. All right. Why I bring that up is because safety is a trap. That when we are faced with something new, when we actually start pursuing our dreams, when we are giving ourselves a chance, and we're taking the risk that I was talking about at the beginning of this podcast, that you're taking that risk, you're giving yourself a chance, you are actually following a dream, you are following your soul, you're listening to your intuition, what is going to come up? Your ego. All the reasons you cannot. And other people will also let their own insecurities get projected onto you. So choose your business coaches, your employees, your mentors wisely. Anyone who is seeding doubt into you is not for you. Anyone who is willing to listen to what you are trying to do and trying to say, even if it doesn't seem to make sense in a business trend, that is where you want to put your energy forward. Anytime that you are aligned in what you're here to do, and again, it doesn't have to be just one big purpose. You don't have to be, I think some people get overwhelmed with this idea that they're supposed to have one purpose and they don't know what it is. Don't worry about that. You might have several, okay? But trust yourself. That's the point, is that the second you start trusting yourself and following like the information that your soul is trying to communicate to you, all the reasons why you cannot will start to show up. And they'll seem really logical and practical. And that's just your subconscious mind, and that's just your ego just flipping into safety mode. They're flipping like a safety switch. And that safety switch is usually some sort of status quo. Like, don't do that. You're off your rocker. You actually should be doing X, Y, and Z because this is the logical, right thing to do. And who do you think you are? And you're an idiot, and you're a, imposter, and, you don't know how to do business, or you don't know how to do this other thing, or you don't know how to be an artist, or you don't know how to be a writer, or you don't know how, what do you think you're doing? You're wasting your life. Yeah, especially if you're someone pursuing an artistic dream, right? Our culture absolutely loves and participates in art and music as one of the most important things on the planet and in a human lived experience, but then like shits on it, right? Like shits on it as a real thing that, artists and musicians are told that they don't have real jobs, right? And that we worship this like jobs that are not artistic jobs, right? Take it from me, that took a lot for me to go from being a doctor with a full clinical schedule, right, to stepping way back from that and pursuing more artistic endeavors. But back to self-trust. Self-trust will be your rock. Once you decide to give yourself a chance and you decide that you're not going to take the risk of staying safe and the same and in status quo, listen to me when I say, the second your soul starts to speak to you and you start to listen and you follow it, your ego is going to come raging forward and trying to trick you to go back into status quo. And it'll do it with the thing you're pursuing. Does that make sense? It'll start to do it with the very thing that you're pursuing. And so when that sneaks up on you like that, just remember that for your soul to have joy and peace and to actually pursue its purpose in life, your ego and your self-doubt and status quo thinking are going to come raging forth and try to sabotage it. And those are the moments where you have to remember this conversation, that there is a bigger risk for your happiness, for your life, and for your health by staying in that safe, familiar, status quo way of living. So there's a famous quote by David Bowie. If you feel safe in the area that you are working in, you are not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you are capable of being. Go a little bit out of your depth, and when you don't feel your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just at the right place to do something exciting. I love this. I love this quote by David Bowie. So when you are a little out of your depth and your feet can't quite touch the bottom, that is the opportunity for something exciting in your life, in your business, in your art to happen. And that you should never, another thing David Bowie says is never play to the gallery, never play to the masses. Always play first for yourself. Yeah? Always for yourself. Always what's in here, inside your heart and in your soul. So take opportunities when they show up. Don't be scared. Take opportunities for when they show up. Assume that you have so much more to give, especially if you're feeling unhappy and you're feeling stuck in your life, that just know that there is a bigger risk staying safe in the same. To instead of thinking of it like you're taking a chance, think of it like you're giving yourself a chance to move forward in your life and to try something new. And then once you start on that path and you have taken that risk and given yourself that chance to move forward and move your own soul's journey forward, just remember that ego and that status quo thinking will come raging forth, and you will get better and better and better at practicing telling those voices to quiet down and to continue to develop that self-trust and to continue your path forward. Take the opportunities that come. You got it. This has been another episode of Welcome to Your B-Side, your midlife metamorphosis with me, your host, Dr. Amy Lindsey. Have a great week. This has been another episode of Welcome to Your B-Side, your midlife metamorphosis with Dr. Amy Lindsey. Be sure to follow along and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.